Hello there, everyone. It's S.O. Mills. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you currently living the life of your dreams? If you are, then congratulations. But if you are not, well, then let me invite you to look at how you can get from where you are to where you want to be. Well, first of all, we ask that you look at yourself as it stands right now and you examine yourself based on these 7 areas. You can look at these 7 areas to sum up your entire position as you are right now. You then want to identify clearly where you want to see yourself, where you'd like to be by when, in another X number of years, for example, 10 years. And again, you'll be using the general principles that you would have looked at when you're looking at where you are now. And then you look on the ascension or bridging the gap between those two periods. So you'll be bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to be over a particular timeline, of course. And having established those 2 points and look at bridging the gap and having examined or declaring a timeline, we then establish what we call a checkpoint, which would land roundabout somewhere in the halfway mark. So in this particular case where we have 10 years, this would end up being at your 5-year marker. Having established our checkpoint, we then want to establish even distribution of periods, time periods between those two periods that the checkpoint separates. So in this case, we would have two sections of 5 years each. Done that, let's now chunk it down a little bit more. And so we're breaking it down as small as it can get. So you look on yourself now, and you're looking at yourself when you get to the checkpoint. And in so doing, you basically are establishing a milestone that must be reached by the time you get to that checkpoint. Right? And you again go a little bit further and you break down that checkpoint, which is in this case a 5-year period. You want to chunk that down further into 1-year periods. And having chunked that down further into 1-year periods, then you establish milestones for each of those 1-year periods. Then we move on to chunk it down a little bit more. And we want to chunk those 1-year periods down into what we refer to as sub-checkpoints. And this sub-checkpoint would be a 6-month period. We then move further to chunk our 6-month period down into single months. Then we chunk our months down into weeks. And then we chunk our weeks down into days. And then we want to take a look at the day. So let us examine the day a little bit more careful now. And this is how every single day should be spent. In order to maximize each day, we want to ensure that every single activity that is done on any given day is done based on a schedule. And this schedule must be created on the night before the day of its execution. We look at establishing a rule of 5, and a rule of 5 is basically 5 tasks or activities that must be done daily to contribute to a particular milestone that must be reached at the next endpoint, the next checkpoint rather, and by extension the ultimate goal. The activities listed in the checkpoint are non-negotiable. As you were, the activities listed in the rule of 5 are non-negotiable. They are to be treated as if your life depends on them, because it actually does. And we're talking about whether rain, sun, or shine. Please be reminded that any time wasted cannot be regained. Once a time is spent, it is gone for good. And as a consequence, time management is essential in scheduling and executing all activities. It must be noted also that environment is stronger than willpower, so you ought to ensure that your environment is always conducive to what you're trying to achieve, because your willpower will generally fail you. Fun, rest, and recreation are necessary, so be sure to include those in your schedules. And finally, I must warn you, you will require a microscope to look back at the former you. I thank you.